Hello, hello, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a great day. We are ready for another live. Doing it a little bit earlier than normal, but it's a live. It can be done at any time. So, for those of you that are watching, feel free to hit the little airplane thing down there and share it with your friends, as well as be aware that even after this is posted, you can share it on your story for those of you that think that there is something worth sharing in this message and live that we are having. So feel free to do that. And as always, feel free to comment as we are doing this live because it adds to the live for sure. So let's see if I can get Timmery on. Started another wonderful person I met through Clubhouse. So super excited about having this live. Let's see. I know I'm going to have to adjust my chair, so we'll see how this goes. There you are. There we go.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. I told my sister, I was like, I feel like I probably need to change my shirt to something more colorful because I feel like Timmery's going to outdo me on the rainbow. And here you are with like the rainbow in the background.
Well, I feel like I kind of outdo everybody on the rainbow, so.
I absolutely love it. Like as soon as we connected on Clubhouse, like when I went to your page, I was just like, wow, I love it.
Well, thank you. And it was such a great opportunity and pleasure to meet you on Clubhouse, too. I feel like we connected almost instantly.
Yeah, I will definitely get into that. But I'll let you introduce yourself so that people know who you are, and then we can kind of jump into a discussion.
Awesome. Thank you. So, hey, everybody. My name is Timmery, and I'm a creative entrepreneur and a professional multifaceted artist. And I always say that my brand of magic is inspiring through color and also one thing that I like to say too. Well, somebody once described me as Lisa Frank eating pixie sticks on acid, and I love that. I think that's so fun. And kind of, I'm like, that's like the best compliment I've ever heard. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have like the Lisa Frank everything, like the folders and everything for school, and
Trapper
so
Keepers.
I'm all for it. I absolutely love it. Awesome. Well, I want to first start off just by talking about like how we kind of met because I felt like the clubhouse room that we met in was you started that room and I jumped in because I saw Elliot Sailors in there and we both love Elliot a lot and I've done a live with Elliot. So I every time I saw them in a room, I was like, this is going to be a quality room just because Elliot always puts themselves in a place that has quality. And the room topic that you were talking about was kind of being a business owner, and someone had sent you a message saying that they were they loved your product and they loved supporting your business because you were a black business to support during like the Black Lives Matter movement. And I loved the room that you created around that because that comment hit you a certain way, but you opened that space to create a room to discuss how other people might interpret that, and you created a space for learning and like stretching your understanding of a situation because when we were sitting in that room there was a lot of different people kind of giving their opinions on it, and the whole room was like validating everyone's own opinion but also like trying to better understand the perspective that's different than your own. And I was just like, this is an amazing conversation because like these types of conversations aren't usually had. Like a lot of times people get something that triggers them or makes them feel a certain way and they just allow that to like eat away at them or they allow it to make them like angry. But you took it to a place of like understanding and sharing a perspective. So I mean, it opens other people's eyes to understand those types of comments do affect other people in different ways than maybe it was intentionally sent. And I thought that that was a beautiful conversation. And then ever since then, like jumping into any of your clubhouse spaces and just watching your Instagram lives, it's just like beautiful energy. And I absolutely love like what you create in the world, whether it's through your art or just by you speaking.
Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Yeah, that room was definitely, that was a very neat room. And I learned a lot because there were so many different perspectives that came in that I didn't even consider, you know? So it was definitely a space of growth. And I couldn't, and I did that. And I wanted to have that conversation because I wasn't sure. I'm like, why is this bothering me so much? Why is it bothering me the fact that this person made a point to write that I'm supporting your business because you're a Black woman? And I mean, that's an amazing thing. But at the time, it just like kind of like, just rubbed me the wrong way, you know. But at the end of it, you know, I got to this place where it, you know, I think it was a positive thing, and who cares why they're buying because it's helping my business to grow. And then of course, I learned many other points from other people who dropped in on the conversation. It was a good one for sure.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like there's just so many different things that like Clubhouse is opening my mind to a lot of different perspectives, and I absolutely love it. And I've been able to kind of better understand my emotions around a lot of things as well, just because I I am living from my own perspective, and the more and more people I meet, I hope that I create a space that people are able to share all the different things that they're feeling. But one of the things that I do with my positive talks is I really want the people coming on as a guest to kind of guide the conversation around what they believe is important for the world to hear, for the people who are watching this to hear. Because my perspective and what I think is only one of billions of perspectives on this earth. And when it comes to some of the people, I've had people kind of share, they're like, well, I don't want to talk about this topic because people look at me and automatically assume that this is the only topic I can speak on. And I felt that like when I moved back to Virginia, like me being gay seemed to be the only way that people could talk to me. Like if we weren't deeper, closer friends, it was like that generic, oh, did you hear about the gay person that was in Mississippi and did this? I'm like, no, because I'm here in Virginia and I don't have gay news on my phone to where I just know everything gay people do everywhere on the planet. And so I just wanted to create a space where people could share what they think other people need to hear. And Clubhouse has been doing that on multiple levels. And it's been nice to connect with people like you and like people like Elliot and Daniel and Val and everyone that I've connected with on Clubhouse, because it seems like other people are also doing that work. And it's really nice to sometimes just join and sit and listen instead of having to lead the conversation.
absolutely. Can I tell you a secret though? I I took a really long break from Clubhouse. I just like got burnt out from it because I was like, because I feel like Clubhouse is one of those things that like sucks you in. You know, it's like when you first get on it, if you love it right away, because not everybody feels that way, but there's a certain type of person, and I feel like you and I are that person, where you jump in there and it's so exciting. There's all these different people and you're learning and you're getting to know people and you're getting your voice to be heard. And so like for me, I went hard. I didn't even realize I was going so hard though. You know, I was on there all the time. Like it was to the point where it's like my family tried to talk to me. I'm like, just give me a second, just give me a second, you know? And so, yeah, so it just started. And then also for me, because I'm an artist and I also I like to call myself an intuitive. And so I was very surprised by the fact that even though it was this interaction, um, of voice of people in various spaces, just like all the energy though that I was accepting and you know, and it was just too much for me. It got to be too much for me. I couldn't handle it anymore, and so I took a little break off, like a long break, and then now I only go on it, like I do one room every Wednesday for an hour. My cutoff is a hard hour, and then I have to, and that's it. And every time I try and go in other rooms and stuff, I just can't do it. And it sucks because I realize like how powerful that tool is. I met people like you and Elliot, like you said, and some other really amazing people, and it actually kind of helped grow my Instagram a lot and connect with some really great people, as I just said that. But it's just like, I hate kind of that I don't feel like I can be on there anymore. Are you still on there as much as you were?
No, not at all. So like I feel bad because there's a lot of people who I connected with that are still hosting their rooms like every day. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, whoa. And I even thought that like once I would jump off the corporate world and into like the self-employed like world, that I would be able to jump on there a lot more. And I, like you, I do one room every week with Val where we're doing the making the uncomfortable comfortable. And that's really the only one that I jump in. And then like there's days when I'm like super bored and I just click on really quick, but quickly jump right back out because
Exactly.
I too started to notice that my energy was starting like I went in with all this intention for creating like positivity and creating spaces where people can like talk. But I think that with the world opening back up and becoming more normal, Clubhouse was that great connection for people like meeting you and meeting all those other people. But I've kind of fallen out of the Clubhouse and kind of fallen more into my Instagram lives, which I realized was like a very beneficial place for me because it was like a more protected place to let my energy out. Because Clubhouse, I could pour my heart into like a statement and then be attacked or have people disagree with me that know nothing about me at all. And it like took the energy that was so beautiful at that moment and just like tore it into 1,000 pieces. So I was just like, ooh, I can't put myself there all the time because I was having to tape my feelings back every single time I got out of a room, which was really hard for me to do.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned protecting your peace. That's what I got out of that. And I think that is so important, with anybody. And yeah, and I think a space like Clubhouse, I mean, I think it's amazing. I'm so impressed. I have like the utmost respect for the people who are still on it and can still like do their thing. Like they must be superhuman because I just can't do it, like, and everything just like, when you start to get like, when it starts to affect your moods and things like that, it's just no longer, serving a purpose, a positive purpose. And that's for me when I have to cut out. So I think it is, I love that you found your Instagram lives where you feel like you can have that, your bubble, which I like to stay in my bubble too. My
Yeah.
bubble's fun. I don't want to go in anybody else's bubble.
Yeah, there are very few people that I feel like they create a space where I can enter safely and like really let myself like guard down completely and just be myself. And that's the type of energy that I seek when I go and make special connections with friends. And I want to be able to be open and honest. But I've slowly been learning that social platforms aren't that safe space all the time. Like even Instagram, like
No.
with the comments in the lives, like those aren't always the safest comments for the energy that I'm trying to protect. But I think that with the intentions behind everything that I try to create, right from the beginning, that is within my intention to create a space to protect my energy as well as anyone who enters. And I think that seeing that in other people really made me realize I wasn't fighting alone. I think that that's what Clubhouse gave me, was it just showed me that all of you all still exist out there, because for a long time I was just so in my bubble protecting it that I didn't realize there were other people in their own bubbles doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's safe there. And I think that's the difference between real life too, because I think, because I'm actually a pretty outgoing person and, you can call me an extrovert, but the difference is, but I've always been one of those people where, like I feel energy before I know how to act with certain people based off of the energy. But when you have something like Clubhouse, it's like you don't really know what's coming from where, and so it's just like beep 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 beep, and you don't really know how to protect yourself because you don't, so yeah. But anyhow, this doesn't have to all be about Clubhouse. I mean, although
Yeah.
that's cool too, but
Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm just very fascinated by like the whole like career entrepreneurship that you have created for yourself. I think that it's an amazing thing to like be able to look at what you do, and like you were saying, like it's very colorful. And for me, like glitter and color catch my attention no matter where I go. Like my friends make fun of me for how like instantly like I can be talking and see something and completely Squirrel. So like when I saw your platform and when I was like exploring through your stuff, I was just like super fascinated with everything that you're doing. And being that I'm also jumping into like the entrepreneur world, seeing someone like you just really grasp onto like your own identity and turning that into a profitable brand is just like really cool to watch. And like I kind of wanted to like pick your mind a little bit about like where it started from, where did it come, like how did you get to where you are today with your brand?
Oh my gosh. So, wow, Drummond, that's like a big question because I've been a creator my whole life. It's in my DNA. All of my dad's side of the family, everybody's artist, like every single one of them almost, which is really neat. But gosh, I don't want to tell my whole life story, but like I went to fashion design school. That's where I got started in LA, and then I got a job right away out of school into the fashion industry. And 2 weeks in, I was like, fuck this. I hate working for people. And then that was my first step into entrepreneurship. Well, kind of. Actually, I used to have businesses when I was like a kid too, but I'm not going to get into that. So it's been a really long journey. I've done a lot of different things. I've worn a lot of different hats. I've been one of those people where I'm not ever scared to try something. If I have the feeling that I want to do it, then I'm just going to do it. I used to perform in LA as a musician. Once upon a time, this is probably my fifth or sixth like art business, or I used to have an accessory line way back in the day, and I went to. Have you heard of Magic in LA? It's like this huge trade show that they do, like the fashion industry. And I was just starting out. I was literally like, I was maybe 19 or 20, had no idea what I was doing. I used to like make these hats. I'd get trucker hats because back when trucker hats were in, it's probably gonna age me, but that's okay. And I would like sew lace on them and like paint them and do all this stuff. And then, and my next door neighbor had this friend who lived in Vegas, and he was like, you should go to Magic. I had no idea like what that was. I heard of it, but I didn't know what it entails. And this little print shop down the street, like I lived in North Hollywood, and everybody it was such a quaint little place back in the day. Now it's like a little bit more commercial and everything, but like I have very supportive community. Everybody knew who I was because I was always like a little artist weirdo walking around. And he's like, well, you're gonna need like a cost sheet and everything. So they helped me like design this like wholesale like booklet, and I show up at Magic, and it's like this huge convention. I had no idea what it was going to be. It's this huge convention. Here I am with like this like box of hats, just walking around trying to find people to sell them to, whereas everybody has these big like booths and tables and stuff. And I saw Steve Harvey there, and I followed him around, and I just followed him, and I'm just like, hey, do you think these hats would be cool to like for you to wear or something? And he just looks at me, and then he keeps walking. So I've always like put myself out there. I make a fool of myself, so it's just trial and error, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day. I finally feel like I've gotten to a place where I'm kind of understanding business didn't always come. I'm an artist first, and so business comes like, it's like a thing that I had to teach myself, and so it took many, many, many years for me to just like figure it all out. And I finally feel like it's all like coming together, after doing all these crazy things. I used to own a production company that produced art and fashion shows, and I traveled around the country doing that. It was so awesome. I had a huge, massive team of people, and I think that's the most important thing is just knowing that you can't do it alone. It's impossible. I know there's like this new word that's been bouncing around now, like solopreneur or whatnot. And when I really think about it, yeah, there's been periods of my time where I have done it just on my own. But when I've really had my most success, it's when I've allowed other people to come into my business and help me. Even if you feel like you're not ready for that, I feel like it's always going to help expand when you bring the assistant in, or when you surround yourself with people who do the things better than you that you don't know how to do. That's like the most important thing, and who believe in your vision.
Yeah, I was reading the Think Like a Boss book by Lily Singh, and she was talking about how she had like this whole idea of what she wanted her show to be that she was doing. And when it came to finding people that also had that same passion for her views, it was really hard because at first she worked with people that didn't have that same passion. They did it for other reasons, and she was having a lot of trouble getting it to be what she wanted it to be. And then she realized that it just was, she was surrounded by people that weren't passionate about the same passion she had. And she just kind of let her team go and brought on people that were more passionate, and it like made a world of difference. And I've been on teams of people for lots of different companies, and my last team that I worked with, the only reason I'm sad about leaving this past job that I just left was my team was a group of people that had so much passion for helping the company succeed that no matter what project got sat on our table, the team just like ripped it apart, and we're like fixing everything that needed to be fixed, and we just helped each other whenever we needed it. And I was telling people like that's one of the things that I seek when it comes to my new business that I'm working on is I want to bring coaches together. I want to bring people that have like the same vision of making the world a better place with coaching. And Clubhouse, I did meet a lot of really great people. There are so many coaches that I just talked to, and we would just strike up a conversation, and it was just gold coming out of our mouth. And something I'd said was like a puzzle piece for their puzzle, and then they'd say the same thing, and it was like for my puzzle over here. And I was just like, wow, I'm learning more from just conversating with people that have similar passions than I ever did trying to read books of people trying to teach me how to run a business or teach me how to be a coach, because these people have the passion behind it, and they're not doing it to pull money out. They're just passionate about it. And like then we start like exchanging things. Instead of exchanging things for money, we're exchanging things for each other's ideas and knowledge. And I felt like that was a lot more fun, and I've learned so much more than I've ever done when I've exchanged cash for information. And I was like, wow, this is a beautiful thing to learn because it's helped me so much. And even like talking to someone like you, who we're in different industries, but like things that you have said also in rooms, I'm like writing it down. I'm like, I'll need that. That's great information. So I think that more people need to realize that sometimes we all just need to be able to put value out into the world, and people will see that and give back value in their own way as well.
Absolutely. And I feel like, what you put out there, you attract, so you always seem to draw the people you need to you, if you're in the right state of being. So yeah, I love that. I love that exchange, Um, yeah. Very
So
exciting.
you said that you have like people, like generations of artists in your family. Uh, is there one person, or is there anyone that kind of like has inspired you the most when it comes to like you continuing in the path of being an artist? Because I know that a lot of times artists kind of lose that track of following their passion just because maybe family members or friends aren't as supportive. And it sounds like you've had a pretty strong support system along your journey, which I think is really important.
I actually didn't have, I mean, yes, I don't want to. So, okay, so my situation's a little bit interesting because even though my dad comes from a very artistic family, we did not grow up with them. My dad was in the military, both my parents were in the military. Her family was in Providence and his was in Detroit, and we grew up on the West Coast in Washington State. So I didn't know any of my cousins. I didn't know that everybody was creative. I didn't know that there were artists. And I mean, my dad used to always tell me that I reminded him of his sisters and stuff, but that's it. I think he obviously recognized who and what I was because he knew that. But it was actually kind of hard for my parents, my mom especially, when I decided to take the route that I did. They were very supportive. They put me through fashion design school. My mom put me through fashion design school, and they were very excited when I got like the corporate job in the industry. But when I quit like 2 weeks in, and then I started my creative entrepreneurial career, they didn't understand, so, and it wasn't until probably like, gosh, how old is Nova now? Nova's 3.5, and while I was pregnant with her, I decided I wanted to go and meet all my family and get to know them. And so, uh, I I did have an idea that they were creative and everything, but like as I'm meeting more of them, I'm really seeing how artistic everybody is. So I didn't have that connection, but seeing that and knowing that makes it easier for me to be who I am, because I can understand where it came from now. And so now I do talk to like my dad's youngest sister now, a lot more. And then I do have a cousin on that side of the family who we've been really close since I was 19 when I moved to LA, and she's also very creative. But as far as supportive, like when I decided to be a creative entrepreneur, no, I didn't really have a lot of support from my family. They just, and I get it, they didn't understand it, and they wanted life to be easy, and it's not an easy journey. And I mean, that's something that everybody should know. It's not easy. I don't care what anybody tells you, it's a fucking lie. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like, I even, like, yesterday I woke up and I was like super pumped and excited, and I was like, yeah. And then today I wake up and I'm like in tears, I'm like, but so it's just like, I don't have any mental issues, well, maybe a little bit, but, so some days are just easier than others when you're doing your own thing. But my dad, getting back to your question, so my dad actually, he never really said anything about what I was doing. It was just like this thing, but I always had felt for a very long time that he was supporting me because he got me. But he passed away right at the height of the pandemic, or before like all the lockdowns. He didn't die from COVID. He died from cancer. And on his deathbed, he like left me with the most powerful and kindest gift ever by telling me, because he, like I said, he didn't say much. He never said yay, he never said nay. But on his deathbed, he told me basically that, he understands that I'm very talented, and that I'm trying not to cry, and that, he's like, protect your talents, protect your gifts. And he's just like, and you are the only one who's going to make this happen, and I know that you can, so it's just like having him giving me that, like, his blessing basically is just like, I already had no problems with doing the things and lighting my own ass, but just that, like, now it just like really, it just set me on a whole nother level of determination to make this happen for myself. So super grateful for that. And I still talk to him, like when I'm having those moments where I'm like, shit, what do I do now? I'm like, Dad, tell me, guide me, so yep, that's who drives me right now, is my daddy.
Yeah, I think that that's amazing, because like I also had a very similar moment with my grandfather, when, because my grandfather had very strict rules about like family is the most important thing. No matter what, family is the most important thing. And I personally, because when I came out, I had to really pull myself away from family, because there was a lot of people that didn't accept that part of me. And my granddad would always say, family is the most important thing. You really need to find ways to make things work with your family. And I felt like, to make things work with my family, I would have to let go of my identity and accept their identity that they've placed on me. And when he was sick in the hospital with cancer as well, the last time I went to visit him before he passed away, he told me that he was proud of everything that I'd done. And he was like, I want you to take all your gifts and I want you to run. I want you to run and chase your dreams. And he was like, you fought so hard to have a relationship with your dad, and I've seen you try. And he was like, but you've let go of your dreams to make that happen. And he was like, I want you to pick those back up and run. And for me, like, that was really just like my granddad telling me, like, hey, like, you've got it. Like, you know what you want to do. Like, you, throughout all of this time growing up, you continue to do what you were passionate about, despite it not lining up with anything everyone else in your family wanted you to do. Because my granddad paid for my college. I went to school for architecture. And I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. And since my granddad has passed away, like my grandmother and my dad have slapped me with, this isn't what your grandfather would have wanted you to do. And I'm like, actually, I'm pretty sure it is. I feel in my heart that I am chasing what my grandfather would have wanted me to chase because it is what feels most authentic and it is what feels just right for me. And I think that that's really powerful, even when, like, because I think men in general have a lot of trouble sharing those proud moments, sharing that. And that has a lot to do with lots of different things. But sometimes someone who's that silent for so long or have said something, it makes that final thing so much more powerful and hold something that maybe for the longest time that's exactly what you wanted to hear them say and never heard it. But when it is said, like, it has that much more power behind it.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Like, and I think he knew that I needed to hear that from him, you know. So yeah, and I love that you got that message from your grandfather because I mean that's something that no one can ever take from us, you know. It's just like that is our little gem, and I think like the most important thing ever is that and is that we're always staying true to who we are, no matter what that is, you know, and that we are nobody can deny you of what gifts you were given to share with the world, you know. And it's just like, so I just want people to don't put a cap on it, you know, just let it out, let it, you know. It may be scary to and it will most likely be unrecognizable to a lot of people, but it'll feel so good. You know, and it'll start to make sense. So,
Yeah, I think that a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to blend into the crowd because that's where acceptance feels like it is, and that's where community feels like it is. But I feel like I've learned more and more that following my most authentic feelings of who I want to be has led me to a place where it almost feels like I don't really need a community to tell me that who I am is enough because when you follow that path of like just doing what feels right, like it starts to really confirm those thoughts and beliefs because things that are meant for you and things that are most like precious to you start to just kind of fall into place for you. Whereas before, I spent a lot of time trying to be what other people thought I was supposed to be, and things were just falling apart left and right and never working because it wasn't meant to be the structure that I housed my energy in. And when I started to kind of pull in that energy, I was like, wow, this I'm different. I'm not that cookie cutter person, and I don't think any of us ever were supposed to be that simple. And I feel like for you, like you definitely stand out, and I think that that within itself is a powerful statement to make because in a world where everyone tries to blend in, those that stand out, that's a strength that not a lot of people have the courage to stand behind because when you stand out, that also puts you in the eye shot of people who might not like that you're not trying to conform to everyone else. How have you kind of like battled with that aspect in life?
honestly, I feel like, because I've always been a little bit, I mean, I don't know, because I think the best part of like this journey for me is like I went to my parents allowing me to go to fashion design school like straight out of high school. That was the best thing for me because I was surrounded by other weirdos, you know? And so when you're surrounded by other creative people and artists and weirdos, it's like none of that even matters. And then you get to this point where it's just like you're not even noticing what is going on around you. And I think that's always been my biggest talent too, is just having that blinder of just like carrying my bubble wherever I go. I don't care, you know, like it doesn't matter to me if you're if you think of this something about me, or if you are looking at me this way, because I'm not paying attention. I'm too busy in my own world just enjoying myself, you know? So, but I think that also that just a part of that is a testament of how I was raised as well. You know, my parents just taught me to just not give a fuck, you know, and they both, I don't know. I just come from, it's funny because as you start to learn about your parents, the older you get, you kind of, then you start recognizing yourself. And like, though, yes, they're not like rainbow colorful like me, but they are in their own way. And I feel like they're their own rebels in their own time, you know? So like my mom was the first woman in her family to join the military and back in, gosh, had to have been in the 50s, 60s or something. Must have been like the 60s, maybe more. Anyhow, I don't remember when it was, 70s, I don't fucking know. But anyhow, for that time and for her family, it was like this shock of like, why are you doing that? This is terrible, you know? So it's so funny because then like she had this issue with me with what I was doing, but then when I look at it, I'm like, I'm exactly like you. It's just in a different form. It's showing up in a different form, you know? So I come from rebellious people who break rules just in a different way.
So since you are a mom,
Yes.
that we're going to be passing this down to the next generation. So what kind of things do you see kind of happening there as a mom? Because I know that, I mean, I've lived with my nephew for the past 4 years. So like seeing that, like everything that I do, because like, of course I do a lot of activism and I speak on so many different things. So like my nephew already knows like he doesn't get the whole LGBT, but he knows the LGB, and he calls it that. Like, and he'll say stuff like that at a 4 year old level. He'll be like, "Oh, is this LGB?" And I'm like, "Yes, Hayden, it's LGB." There's a couple other letters. We'll get them eventually, but I think that it's interesting to kind of see them absorb, and I feel like you're creating a space where your kid can like actually absorb you being like a powerful being in being authentic to yourself, because I think that that does also pass down to generations being able to see that. And I've already seen her grab your phone and start a live, so
Absolutely. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so Nova, who doesn't seem like she's much younger than your nephew, um, so I started her with her creativity really early. Like she's been painting since she was 1. I taught her to use Procreate. So I wanted to make that available for her. And if that's something that she doesn't choose, but because for me, honestly, art has always been an outlet and a way to express, and it's been therapy, you know? So I think it's very important that all kids are exposed to that, you know? And so I do see that she's very creative, and it's so fun. And we don't have rules about like, she can pick out what she wants to wear, and like, and some days she'll want me to pick it out because she just is being lazy, you know? But like, even just like the way her self-expression, like out in public, and just like, she's just a little fucking weirdo, like honestly. And it's so funny though, and it's fun, you know? She's just like 100% like herself, and I just love it. She's just really kooky, and I'm excited to see who she blossoms into. But right now, yeah, she's definitely like a really cool kid.
yeah, I think that it's so cool to like see children, because what I always say, I don't understand why people say parenting is so hard, because like yes, there are things that you learn along the way that you never would have suspected unless you probably read like all the parenting books. But like for me, like my favorite thing is just seeing what Hayden likes, like not saying he has to like this or has to like that, but just watching and observing like the things that he's gone through. Like he had a very long period where he was like obsessed with like the car movies from Disney, and everything had to be about cars. And of course, I'm a big nerd, so like now he's really into like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. He's a huge fan. Like he loves like Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, and them. But I absolutely love seeing him, like, because I had like one of the Lord of the Rings rings, and he'll stick it on and pretend he's invisible as he
Oh,
like
I
walks
love
around.
that.
But like there's days where like he morphs all of it together, and like he is now like Frodo in the Harry Potter world catching Pokemon, and I just love to see how creative he can be, and just giving him more and more information so that he can kind of do with it what he pleases, like, and just kind of allowing that to happen. Because I think for me, like the coloring inside of the line type life, I never really fit well into that. So I want to be able to be that person in his life that's like, here's a blank sheet of paper. Do with it what you please. Let's make something and see what comes out at the end.
Yes, I love that. And I have to touch on the toddlers and the LGBTQIA because Nova. So I'm going to tell you a quick little story about that. So during Christmas time, she had this Christmas coloring book, and we were coloring together, and I was coloring a picture of Santa, and I gave him hot pink lipstick, and she got so offended, like pissed. She was just like, Santa doesn't wear lipstick. I was like, well, my Santa's a drag queen, and she was pissed. She was like, Santa's not a queen. Santa's not a drag. Obviously, she doesn't know what a drag queen is. So then it inspired this line. So for the holidays, I actually made a line of Christmas cards of bunch of Santas as drag queens. And so it's interesting because sometimes, like, cause she's so young, and I do have a lot of my community is mainly the queer community and people of the LGBTQIA, but I realize like we spend a lot of time not alone, not alone, but like we don't spend a lot of time with other people, especially because it's been we've been in quarantine or whatnot. And so like sometimes it's funny because it's like I expect her to understand and know and like and get it, and like I find myself side-eyeing a 3.5-year-old sometimes, and I'm like, oh wait, shit, I have to teach her. So I'm like, Paul, Paul, why does she not understand that it's okay for boys to wear dresses? He's like, babe, she's 3. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta teach her. So
Yeah.
that's definitely been interesting, but little by little, she's learning.
Yeah, it's crazy because like when you think about like the things that children are exposed to in life, like the LGBT still isn't represented in a way that like they're really like a child would understand that representation. And 3, I think, is a young age for them to understand too much in depth other than, yeah, like telling her it's okay for Santa to wear hot pink lipstick. That's, I think, a great example. But like it's very interesting because like history of the LGBT is not taught. It's not really involved in anything. So whenever I come across really closed-minded people, I just remind myself that like for me, this is my everyday life. For the people in my life that have me, they're used to this because of me and maybe the community I've tied them into. But for the general public, there's still a lot of stuff that they aren't exposed to. And I have to just like pull back in my energy and be like, don't be angry. They just aren't aware. Like, let's educate, let's create this space because I've seen, even with my nephew, because his mom and dad aren't together, like, his dad is not very open minded when it comes to uh, someone being different. My nephew painted his fingernails because he saw his mom and his soon to be like stepsister doing it. And his dad was not okay with it. He was embarrassed. He took it off as soon as he could. Hayden was really upset about it. But like he also made a lot of statements that a 3-year-old would hear that would negatively impact the open-mindedness and having Hayden feel like he could do whatever he wants in the future. And being part of the queer community myself, like as I've been unpacking all of that trauma, like it was small comments like that that created a barrier for me and a need to feel like I needed to wear a mask to be accepted. And seeing that as an adult, I'm just like, oh gosh, like how do I fix this? How do I like make sure the next generation doesn't hear these little snide comments that were so traumatic for a lot of people in the LGBT community? And then I started opening up a can of worms by like looking at everyone that was talking about trauma from all different societal norms that were like pushed on anyone that was considered different. And I'm just like, oh, we've got so much work to do. We like the whole like the gender thing for me, like that's a really powerful one. That's a barrier that is so hard for people to like break free of because we've gendered everything. And
Everything.
like even when like little kids like Hayden likes pink and his dad's not okay with it. Pink is a girl's color. And I'm like, no, it's not. Colors that last time I
It's the
checked,
color.
there was nothing about that color that required pink to be assigned to one gender. And just kind of breaking down norms like that in whatever way possible, I think is so important. And I think that I'm seeing more and more of it. And I love connecting with people to hear how parents are doing it, how teachers are doing it, how we're just letting society kind of adapt slowly and not push it so hard that it creates a war where people fight back, where it's just slow things that accept like emails, putting your pronouns at the end, all of those types of things. If we can normalize it without creating a war, I think that the next generation will have so much easier time being unique and different instead of feeling like they have to like fit themselves into a box that society has placed on all of us.
Absolutely, and I think that's what's so much fun about the younger generations too, is like they're really getting to explore that in a new way, you know. And of course, there's always going to be pushback, you know, but I mean, they're going to be totally just like free floating in the clouds, dude. You know what I mean? But I would love. So I don't know if you know this, but I actually also own a children's book publishing company called Unicorn Electric Kids, and I have two books under that. But my goal eventually, and that's a slow build because it is not easy to run two businesses and be a mom and a wife, but my goal eventually is to publish authors from the LGBTQIA communities and the Black and Brown communities to tell their stories in a way where they so that kids can learn directly from the people who it's about. You know, I'd love to see more books about on queer subjects and things like that, children's books. There are a few out there, there are more out there, but I don't think there's a lot. And I love the fact that they do a lot of cities now are doing the drag queen storytelling. I just recently, one of the local drag queens just picked up my books to read, and I'm so excited, and I cannot wait for that. And I'm going to take Nova so that she could see a drag queen in person, because I don't think she has yet. But yeah, so I think it starts there. It really does. I think it starts with the books that they read and things, because that's one of the things. Like, Nova loves Disney. I mean, she is super girly. Like, I didn't make her that way. It's just how she is. And so it's like when she watches these movies and everything, and so that's why she thinks that, like, you know, okay, prince and princess, you know, and it's this whole like gender thing. But now they have like also movies like Raya and things like that, which I love, where it's not really about any of that. It's just about being like a badass woman. And now she's like, I want to be Raya. And I'm like,
Yes.
why do you want to be Raya? She's like, because I just want to fight. And like, you know, so I love that, you know. So I
Yeah.
think it starts there.
I just watched like the Disney special that they did with like where the drag queen was hosting the Disney special, and I was just like, this is really cool. And they had like two guys singing A Whole New World together instead of having, and he even like tapped him on the nose and called him princess, and I'm like, oh, like
I
my
love
arms
that.
just like chill bumps everywhere. And I watched it straight from YouTube. I know it's on Disney Plus, but I love that that type of exposure is happening. And I've been working on a children's book as well.
I remember you telling me that, actually.
Yeah, so like I want to create a book that will be slipped into children's like reading list without conservative people shutting it out and saying absolutely not. I will not have my child like learning about this topic, because I feel like this problem with the LGBT community is people focus so much on the sex, because what makes a homosexual? It's because he is sexually attracted to the same sex. And sex is such a taboo topic in general. Like I grew up in like the Lynchburg, Virginia area, which is like Liberty University, the largest Christian university in the world. So like that type of stuff was very, very unheard of. Like you do not speak of that in public with your friends. Like that was just not, and you're not supposed to talk about it with your parents. And even I, when I talk about it, still am overcoming that fear of like, this is not acceptable to talk about. But I realize that removing that taboo is one, saving lives in a lot of different ways, helping people not get into situations that they're not ready for. Like there's so much to explore there. And so I've been trying to create a book that's like LGBT, but removes all the like taboo of that type of stuff because a child isn't thinking about that anyway. So we don't need to introduce that to them, but we do need to introduce that it's okay for two boys to hold hands. That's an okay thing. And I think that what I'm doing with my book, which right now I'm really working with the illustrator to kind of create the pictures that I want, which I'm kind of picky. I wish I was a better artist so I could like actually put on paper what I am thinking. But so far, the illustrator I've been working with has been doing a really good job. So I'll continue to work with him. And I've been thinking about making it into more of a series where more things are introduced, where like all the different things that we're struggling with in the world is kind of introduced on a child's level that children will just, it will be normalized to where it's not made fun of or looked at as, oh, you're weird, you're different.
Yeah, and I think that's just that's the purpose. That's the whole point, is to just normalize it, and it's a non-issue. It's just like, oh, okay. Where you're not even like double taking, So yeah, that's my goal. That's what I would like to do, and I can't wait to see your book. I know it's going to be
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm super excited. Like the illustrator that I came in contact with was just someone who reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, I'd love to do a drawing of you and your little logo that you had cuz like I have the like little cougar that is like my rainbow cougar and I did that just because I don't like stereotypical things. Like I don't want a unicorn with a rainbow on it because that's so
I do.
stereotypical of the LGBT community. And I've always felt like I don't really truly fit in with the stereotypes that people place on our community. So I was like, I'm from the mountains. Like I grew up in the country. Like getting dirty is something that I enjoy. I don't sit there and like pick dirt from under my fingernails. I enjoy it being there. But like that type of stuff for me was very me. So like the mountain lion was also because my family is Native American on my mom's side. That was like my totem that was given to me as a kid. So the mountain lion holds like a really like intense like I don't know symbol to my entire life. And I was just like, I want it to be a mountain lion and I want a rainbow slapped right on its face because there's so much symbolism between like the mountain lion and what I want to do with my life. I was just like, and then I named him Dakota because it means to make friends with everyone. And I'm like, you know what? That's my goal. Like I don't care if people have different backgrounds, different views. Like I want everyone to be able to say, "Hey, I have a different view." And I'm like, "That's fine. Let's be friends."
I love that. I love that so much. And I definitely can relate to not fitting into a stereotype. Right
It's
there with
crazy.
you.
It's crazy like how often people try to stereotype each other to kind of find some type of like normalcy or some type of comparability, but it's just like why can't we just say we're all unique and be excited about that
Yeah,
instead of
because we are. I mean, does anybody really even fit into any box if you really think about it? I mean, unless they're just trying and they're, you know what I mean? Because nobody is edgy. We're all round, and we're more circular and
yeah.
more flowy,
Yeah,
more
I think that
dimensional. There we go, dimensional. That's a good word.
yeah, I love like having someone like you out there that exists that is so noticeably like able to be different and not ashamed of it because there are so many people that I think really do want to like do exactly what they feel like is them, but they're so scared to show it. Like I've seen so many like posts where it's like, let your freak flag fly. And I'm like, yes, like do that. Like just be yourself. Cause I honestly, like I had so many friends in my life that were just kind of, yeah, like they were great. They existed. But they weren't like, they didn't bring joy into my life as like when I started saying, this is what I love. Like I'm a big nerd. I like doing this in my spare time. I jam out to this type of music. When I started like waving my flag in that sense, like more and more people, one, some of the ones that were in my life started to become more interesting because I allowed them to say, hey, I'm also different. But I also started attracting more people that were like, hey, I absolutely love what you're doing. I love this about you. And we celebrated each other's like quirks instead of like celebrating, hey, good job blending in, doing great.
And that's funny though. It's like because when described as like being different, I don't feel different. Like I just am who I am. Like I don't know anything else. So it's just like, yeah, I like to wear bright colors and stuff, but I'm really no different than you and you and you. Like yeah, we might have unique things about us, but I cry, I get mad, all the things that you feel like I feel too. And I think that's what we all have to remember is we're all like the same and come from the same source. So
Yeah.
our ideas and things might be different, but we all have more in common than we think we do. And I think that's when people there starts to be trouble is when we start to separate each other, so
Yeah. Maybe I should say that instead of being different, like you're someone who has accepted your gifts that you've been given and you use them the way that they should be used. Because
yes,
I feel like
acceptance.
everyone has, I think everyone has so many beautiful gifts. And I love to see people, like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't care what someone's passionate about, but if they will sit there and talk to me about that, like, I will literally be just engaged and just want to hear more because when someone speaks with passion, it's so powerful and it's like a magnet that just like pulls me over because like I don't really like I don't have to like what you're talking about, but when you're passionate about it, like I'm sitting there, I'm drawn to the passion in it. I'm not drawn to the topic necessarily, but I've learned so much from just speaking to people who are passionate about things because they say it so passionately that it's impossible not to want to sit there and listen to what they're saying.
Absolutely, I totally agree. My husband, when I first met him, he's like into domes, monolithic domes. He's definitely a very eccentric man, and I had never even heard of it, and like, but just listening to him because he loves it so much, and eventually I started loving it, and and it's just awesome to, you learn from others when you listen about what they're passionate about. Sorry, my mom is messaging me. Anyhow, yeah.
Yeah, I think that that is when it comes to like teachers. I think that we really need to find teachers that are passionate about the subjects that they're teaching because there are definitely teachers that have been in my life where when I can tell that they're passionate, like I am just absorbed in their information. Whereas like other teachers that might just be working for the paycheck or maybe the passion doesn't exist because there's so much standardization now that teachers have lost all ability to be unique and different. But I've definitely like when it comes to working with entrepreneurs, like entrepreneurs are like phenomenal people because they embrace themselves in such a way and they take things that they're scared of and jump through it. And a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've met are people that are just like what you were saying. It's like, I cry. Like, I wake up in the morning some days and I don't feel very much like an entrepreneur, but I know I have to get up and do something. And those types of things, it's honesty. And for the longest time I was so surrounded by people who are like, oh, I wake up every day and my life is just perfect. And so I was comparing that to my life and I was like,
Yeah.
I wake up every day and I feel like crap most of the time. So I was like, wow, something's not right with me. But when someone that I really admire is just honest, they're like, yeah, some days it's fine. Other days not so much. I was like, me too. And it made me realize that we are more alike than different in those ways. And it's just a lot of people aren't honest with themselves or the world. Sometimes it's out of fear of being judged. Sometimes it's because they feel like they have to present themselves in a certain way to gain what they are trying to achieve in life. But I've really connected with people who are just authentic, and it's such an amazing connection to have those types of people in your life.
Yes, I agree. I love that. And it's impossible for anybody to wake up every single day and just be like, ah, or maybe it is. I don't know. It's not my life though. I shouldn't
Not
say
for
that. I shouldn't say it's impossible, but because I don't know. But I know for me, no, that's not reality.
yeah. Well, I see that we have come to the hour, so I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and doing this live with me. Like, I admire you so much, and I think that you do so many amazing things, and I love what you're doing, so keep doing it. And I love that you shared, like, you've done a lot of things. Like, you are constantly doing more and exploring new avenues in life, and I think that that's really important. And I think that everything that you kind of touched on today, I think that that will give a lot of people some inspiration, because I think that sometimes people think that if they change careers or change their path, that they're not going to do anything. But I think that you are a great testament of someone who's tried a little bit of everything there, and you're finding more and more things that you really like. And I think that that's a phenomenal story to be told.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I was so excited to do this, and I love that you do this. And I love seeing your Instagram as well. You are quite the popular one, Mr. Culture. You are definitely got a lot of fans, and I see why, because you're such a sweetheart. But yes, thank you for having me. I so appreciate you.
I'm hopefully we'll stay in touch. I know that life has
Yeah, we
gotten kind
will.
of busy and hectic and crazy, but I definitely want to stay in touch with you, and I'll definitely talk to you more about like the children's book stuff, because I think that those types of things, like I've been buying LGBT books and putting them in our public libraries here, just because I think that
Awesome.
more and more people need it. So like if you've got children's books already out there, like I'm all for buying them and making sure that they're in places that kids have access to them, because I think that that's just one route we can take to like get those in the right hands.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes, keep me updated with your book. I know it's going to be very successful, and I'm so excited for you that you are jumping into the entrepreneur pool. Have fun. Enjoy the
Love that.
ride.
Yes, it's a roller
All right,
coaster.
all right, my friend. I'm
Bye.
hungry. Bye.
I'll see you soon.
Okay.